Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for the Tech Guy is provided by Cachefly. Cachefly.com. Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. The show originally aired on the Premier Radio Networks. We just got a bunch of new stations. I think it's well over 160 stations now in the U.S. And, of course, XM Channel 166 on Saturday, August 6th, 2011. This is episode 793. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Squarespace.com, the fast and easy way to create a high-quality website or blog. For a free trial and 10% off your new account for 6 months, visit Squarespace.com and use the offer code TechGuy8. Well, a good day to you. How are you? Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. And it's time to talk tech. Computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders. Are you enjoying it, sir? You're enjoying the theme song. I can see you dancing there. Home theater. That's what we do on this show. We talk tech every weekend, and I'm so glad you're here to talk tech with me. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number if you have a question, a comment, a suggestion. If you want a little hand-holding on the information superhighway. I had a very interesting experience this week. I'm doing jury duty, and that's all I can say, I think, about it. But a couple of actually, there are a couple of things I want to say, and they won't apply to the case, which I know we're not supposed to say anything about. I'm not on the jury yet. They're in what they call the voir dire, the look-see talk part, where they pick a jury. A couple of things that came to me while this was going on. First of all, what a great privilege, and I know people don't think of it this way, but what a great privilege it is to serve on a jury, and how important juries are to our democracy. The jury is really the most direct way most of us get to participate in our nation's governance. The jury is what stands between the government and its people, making sure that the guilty are convicted and the innocent are set free. And I think it's a very powerful and important job. And it kind of saddened me to see so many people trying to get out of it. And you know, I have a lot to do. I'm missing a lot of work. In fact, my business partner says, "Don't do it. It's costing us too much money." But I was greatly honored. And I hope, I don't know yet if I'll be able to serve on the jury. They're still selecting. But if I am selected, I will serve gladly. I think they said it would be a 3-week trial. The other thing, though, I thought was very interesting. Now, I don't usually hang out with normal people. I'll be the first to admit it. I hang out with geeks. I'm surrounded by geeks. Everybody I work with is a geek. And everybody I talk to is a geek, and even the people who call this radio show are, for a large proportion, geeks. So it's great to get out into the world and realize, wow, we are a minority. Everybody from the lawyers to the judge almost proudly professed ignorance of technology, which I found kind of sad. I don't think there's anything to be proud of in any kind of ignorance. I think it's actually comes from a little bit of embarrassment, to be honest with you. Oh, yeah, what is this Facebook thing? But I hear it a lot. We hear it in court cases all the time, even up to the Supreme Court. We hear it in Congress constantly. This kind of proud assertion that, oh, well, I don't know anything about that. I'm not a geek. Well, better get there, kids. Because you know what? This is the way the world is. But that wasn't the only insight I got out of this. One, of course, that we should no longer feel proud if we don't know about technology. At least something about technology. It's important, and it's really important for government, our members of Congress, our judiciary, to know about technology. They're ruling on technology cases all the time. They need to know about it. Period. That's their job. But secondly, I realized how even in the jury, so few people understood or knew anything about technology. Only a handful of the jury was on Facebook. But now, I thought everybody was on Facebook. I thought, well, who's not on Facebook? There's 750 million people on Facebook. That's more than twice the U.S. population, man, woman, and children. Certainly most people in America should be on Facebook, right? No. No, it was only, I don't know, it was only a handful of people. And so that reminded me, especially when I do this show. I do a lot of other shows that are aimed at a geek audience, that are for geeks, by geeks. We're going to have a new clothing label, FGBG. But when I do this show, I'm talking to everybody. More than 1 million people. And I bet a good number of you don't use technology and maybe don't even use Facebook. So I want to really open an invitation to you. If you want to know more about this, don't feel like, I can't go on and ask a question on this show. I don't know. I'm not a geek. No, you're the one I want to talk to. That's what this show is for. And you don't have to be a member of Congress or the judiciary to call 8888 Ask Leo. If you're just kind of curious, well, what is Facebook? Why is there so much attention paid to that? What is this thing called Twitter? What is the internet? And believe me, ignorance goes everywhere. I read a TechCrunch article. Now, TechCrunch is a blog that's celebrated by geeks. It's supposed to be for geeks. It's all about startups, new companies in the tech industry. A blog post that said, the internet is 20 years old this week. Happy birthday, internet. Couldn't be more wrong. The internet's almost 50 years old, first of all. And maybe he was talking about the web. I think they changed the article to say the web. Even that's wrong. The World Wide Web is 21 years old. Thank you very much. So even tech people sometimes get it wrong. And while I will disdain people who claim to be technologists who don't know anything, if you are not a geek and you want to know more, I will never laugh at you or mock you. It's my job. And I'm happy and proud to do it. I think it's important, this world that's changing so rapidly in technology. I think it's important, and I think it's important that you understand it. And even if you're, not in government, you need to understand it. You need to understand it for your kids' sake, for your sake, for work. And you know what? There's a lot of fun that can be had here. Your hobbies, all of this the world is changing. The ability to look up information, even your phones are little computers nowadays. So that's what I'm here for. And I just want to assure you, I will not mock you. I will not laugh at you. There are no dumb questions. There are plenty of dumb answers. I'll be responsible for those. Thank you very much. But there are no dumb questions. And really, I think it's no longer appropriate to celebrate ignorance. It's time to say, yeah, I think I should know a little bit about that. I think it's not okay to say, hey, you Facebook, what is that? It's not okay to say that. It's okay to say, Facebook, I have no interest. Facebook, I don't want to do it. That's fine. The internet, I don't want to be on it. That's fine. But you should at least know what you're saying no to. Right? I don't think that's asking too much. And, if there are any judges out there or members of Congress or the state assembly, the legislature that, would like to know what's going on, I encourage you, to listen. I won't out you. You can listen privately. I won't. You could even ask questions with a pseudonym. It's okay. And maybe if you are a geek, and I know many do listen to this show, it's a good thing for us to remember as geeks. Let's be inclusive. It's so tempting to say, I know. You don't know these terms. Use jargon, and every profession does this. We have jargon. Lawyers do it, by the way, big time. Jargon that they use to exclude people. Let's not do that. Let's include everybody in this conversation. And if you maybe once a week, take some time to show somebody, maybe a family member, a friend, a senior, a kid, how to use a computer to their advantage, how to use a cell phone to their advantage, that would be a good thing for us to do. I'm gonna start the Team Tech Guy. Actually serious about this. We're redesigning the web, and one of the things I want to do on the new website is have more input from you, our audience, our viewers. And in order to do that, I'm going to create a whole comment engine that will do that. And we'll call you participants Team Tech Guy. In fact, I'm even going to get prizes for the Team Tech Guy people who help the most. Don't you think that's a good idea? We need a kind of AmeriCorps for geeks. but we don't need to organize it. We'll just do it ourselves. Phone number is 8888-ASK-LEO. 888, not the Geek Squad. That's something else. Not for profit. 8888-ASK-LEO. 888-827-5536. The website is techguylabs.com. I am your host, Leo Laporte, and I'll talk to you next. The Tech Guy. Oh, hey, by the way, I want to thank, we have sponsors, for the podcast. And today our sponsor for the podcast is Squarespace.com. I know you know Squarespace. I hope you know Squarespace. I talk about them an awful lot. They're really the best place to go if you're ready to set up your first website, or maybe you want a special purpose-built website for an event. Maybe you're an artist or a photographer or a store and you want to create a site for your business. Squarespace is fantastic. It's so easy to see if this is for you. Now, let me explain what Squarespace is. It's hosting plus software. So you're getting great web hosting, the best in the business. They use a very sophisticated virtual server technology that means you've always got enough bandwidth. You cannot bring a Squarespace site down. We bring sites down all the time on this show. Never can bring down a Squarespace site because of this amazing virtual hosting technology. So it's great hosting. And then on top of it it's the software. You don't have to install software. That's what Squarespace has done. It's tuned for their server. So you get these great features, great hosting, and a great site. And the try it free thing makes it so easy to see if Squarespace is right to you. Just click that green button at squarespace.com. You don't need a credit card. You just need a site name, a password, your email address, and you've got a free Squarespace site fully capable for 2 weeks. So you could try everything, the templates. You could import and export your existing sites. They have all the big APIs, movable type, WordPress, TypePad, Blogger, photo galleries that are just incredible. So many people use Squarespace. You gotta figure, with all these people are using Squarespace, there must be a reason. Squarespace sites look beautiful. They work great, and they're very affordable. Pricing is as low as $10-something a month. The longer you sign up for, the lower the price, of course. But even the monthly is $13 a month. I mean, it's very affordable, and you get just the best software. Always updated, always secure, always patched. And if you use that offer code at the bottom of the screen, TechGuy8, TECHGUY, the number 8, all one word, no spaces, you'll get 10% off this cost for the first 6 months. So we wanted to make it a little more affordable, a little easier for you to try. Try it free for 2 weeks. If you like it, sign up, and don't forget to use TechGuy8 as the offer code when you do, so we get credit and you get 10% off for the first 6 months. Squarespace, it's a secret behind exceptional websites. I'm a big Squarespace fan. I think you know that. We use it for Inside TWiT, our Inside TWiT blog, and it's just fantastic. Where'd you find that? Yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. There are a lot of people who can't afford to do jury duty, and of course they have hardships to get you out of it. But I feel privileged to get a chance to do it. And as I said, I'm not on the jury yet. We're still in the selection process. But if I get picked, it will cost me some money. But I'll do it. And the reason I was thinking is, if I were ever a prisoner in the dock, if I were ever accused and had to go to trial, I would want the best jury. I wouldn't want the jury made up of all the people who just couldn't figure out how to get out of it. That's not the jury you want, is it? 8888 Ask Leo, that's the number. Mike's our first caller from South Pasadena, California. Hi, Mike. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm great. How are you? It's funny. You would think the blind guy would narrow it down, but it's radio. We have a lot of listeners who can't see, and but I know which one you are, Mike. Great. See, this is what I was hoping. I would like to do this whole day, do questions like that. What is Wi-Fi? Great question. It's a standard for using the internet wirelessly. So. No, but you do need yes, you do not need a computer. There are a lot of radios now that have built-in wireless network support. I love Wi-Fi radios. In effect, a Wi-Fi radio is a computer, Mike. What it is it's a little radio. I wonder if I have one here. I have a bunch of them all over the station, all over the studio here. It's a little box that has a little kind of primitive computer in it and a wireless network card in it. So when you see the words Wi-Fi, you could think of wireless internet. And that wireless internet card picks up a signal through the air, just like a radio signal, and uses it to tune in internet radio stations. And there are tens of thousands. Yeah, there's old-time radio. We're on internet radio. You can listen to my show on internet radio. You can actually listen to everything I do. All my podcasts are on internet radio at twit.am. So that it's possible to listen to a lot of different stuff on internet radio. But unlike a regular radio broadcast station, you know, if you're listening to me on the radio right now, you're listening to radio waves that come through the air from a big tower somewhere in your vicinity, a regional radio station that's broadcasting this through the airwaves. Wi-Fi, wireless networking, doesn't go as far. It really only goes a few hundred feet. And it's usually provided, you do it yourself. In other words, you need to get internet access, put a box on it that transmits the signal, and then you can use that Wi-Fi radio. The neat thing about Wi-Fi is a lot of coffee shops now offer it, a lot of restaurants. McDonald's offers Wi-Fi, so you can, now it's not going to be practical to carry your Wi-Fi radio with you, but it's all started because laptops often had Wi-Fi, wireless networking built in, so you could go somewhere with wireless networking and you could get online. It's not okay, people sometimes do this, it's not okay to borrow your neighbor's Wi-Fi unless you ask them. You know, you may find, Mike, that there's somebody around who has a Wi-Fi network, and if you ask them nicely or maybe even offer them a few bucks a month, they'll let you use it. In some cases, there'll be, in fact, I would hope in most cases, there'll be a password to use it. But you go into the radio has a dial and a menu on it, and you can see on the radio all the Wi-Fi signals that the radio can see from where you are. And if you select one, it'll say if it needs a password or not. So if you see a few around, you might ask your neighbors, hey, you know, I don't have a computer. I just want to use a wireless network radio or a Wi-Fi radio. Would you mind if I piggybacked on your internet connection? Because you won't be using much of their bandwidth. And if you don't have a computer, there's not much risk, really, that you'll be doing something, you know, nefarious on their network. So they might, especially because you're blind, they might say, yeah, Mike, sure. Let's set you up here. They might even help you tune it in and get it all working. And once you've got it working, you can have presets. There are websites like Reciva, RECIVA.com, that let you search all the internet radio stations out there, pick your favorites. And then if the radio is Reciva compatible, and most are, C. Crane has some really good ones. CCRANE.com. Those radios work with Reciva, and then it will automatically pick up your favorites, and then it's very easy to tune. You have buttons on the front. You could say 1, 2, 3, 4. NPR makes a radio, an NPR radio that has public radio built into it. So I think this is a really neat technology. I love internet radio. Anybody with a computer can listen to internet radio, but you don't need a computer. You just need the radio, and this is the catch, internet access. If you want to do it yourself, of course, you'll have to go to somebody like DSL Extreme, an internet service provider. You'll have to arrange for internet. You'll have to put a wireless transceiver in, a Wi-Fi box. They call them wireless access points, and that's what your radio tuned to. But if you've got neighbors it'll share with you, I think that's another really good way to do it. Seth, Northridge, California. You're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Seth. Yeah. Yes, I see that a lot. Yeah. It's probably I just did a search, and oh my goodness, for MacBook sleep loses connection, and there's a whole bunch of articles in here about people who have the exact same problem. I'm looking now at the Apple support forums and Apple support communities, and there's a lot of this. This is a very common issue. One thing to do is make sure you have the latest version of the operating system. Even if you're back with are you Leopard, Snow Leopard? What version of Yeah, so make sure you've been applying all the updates and so forth. Sometimes that fixes it. But I think it's also probably related to hardware issues as well. What kind of router do you have? Yeah. See, I think that this is not an unusual problem, and I don't know of a great fix for this.
Yeah, I've already reloaded Snow Leopard once. I thought it might be
I don't think it's that. The other issue would be to make sure that your router has the latest. Apple puts out Airport Express updates frequently. Has the latest firmware in it as well.
Firmware.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've done that. I've checked that also.
Okay. How recent is this MacBook?
I got it. It's before the Unibody, so I think I got it 2000.
Yeah. This was a real problem with the old titanium MacBooks because, frankly, the connection wasn't that good to begin with. I'd call Apple, see if they have a fix. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Talk. And we're going to make this show. We're going to dedicate this show to people who are not geeks, but who have some legitimate questions, like our first caller, about technology. They go, what is it? What is that Wi-Fi? What I hear everybody talking about. What is Facebook? What is the appeal? I think it's important. We got to educate people, educate everybody, so you understand this stuff. I don't think you have to use it. By the way, I'm not one of those geeks who says, "Oh no, everybody has to use the internet. Everybody has to use computers." No, not at all. It's not for everybody. But I think it's important that we understand it. Don't you? Is there something puzzling you? Let me know. Mark in San Diego, you're next. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Yeah, hi. Hi, Leo. Nice to talk to you finally.
Thanks for calling, Mark.
Quick question for you. I have a home network that an issue that's been puzzling me for a long time, and I just can't figure it out. I got a lot of older computers. Mm-hmm. I have a Netgear wired and wireless router, mm-hmm. and an older computer, compact AMD, that for some particular reason, I have no idea why, but every once in a while I'll be surfing the internet and then all of a sudden it'll just drop right off, and basically what happens is it basically kills all of the network connections or internet connections to the rest of the house, and I end up having to reboot the router.
So it's it sounds like it's the router that's doing this, not that individual computer.
Well, it seems that way. However, I just purchased this router. It's a Netgear WNDR 3700, and it seems
just
like
because it's new doesn't mean it's not broken.
The thing is, I had a Linksys router before that, which was kind of doing the same thing. So now it's a really puzzling problem, and I have no idea.
I think it's a router. I don't think it's that puzzling.
Okay.
It's the router, and it's not an uncommon thing with routers. First thing I do is make sure you got the latest firmware on that new router.
Okay.
Do you know about that firmware? How to do that?
Yeah. Usually when I log into the router, it will basically it has software on it that checks for the latest firmware.
Good.
And I have
so you have it. I would still go to the website and make sure you got the latest. The other option, you could do this probably with the old Linksys. I don't know if you could do it with a new router. You said it was Netgear or D-Link? I forgot.
It's a Netgear router.
You can put alternative third-party firmware on it too. This is the last bastion of the geek, by the way. People do it on their phones, people Android phones anyway. There are a couple of really good alternative firmware for the router. The router is a little computer.
Right.
Just like that Wi-Fi radio. It's a little computer with software and a processor and memory.
Okay.
The software comes off of a read-only, or I guess a non-volatile memory chip that we call firmware. It's not software. It's not hardware. It's firm. It's kind of in the middle because you can change it.
Okay.
It's on an electrically erasable, programmable read-only memory, or an EEPROM. And you can download new software for it, of course, from the manufacturer, which it does check periodically for. But you can also get third-party software for some, not all routers, that will often greatly improve the router, both in performance and features and functionality. And a couple of these are DDWRT is one. The other one is Tomato, but I don't know if they make it for Netgears. You know, it's open source. These guys work hard to make them work with a lot of routers. It's very similar to the Android, alternate ROMs.
Now, one other quick thing. When I do a lot of, on this particular PC that's causing the problem, I do a lot of internet gaming, and for some reason, why would that one connection kill all the other ones? Why would it all?
Could be overheating the router.
Oh, wow, okay.
When you're doing gaming, maybe a lot of traffic's going on. It could be, in fact, so you're saying this never happens except when you're using that old compact.
Yeah, and when I look at the network settings, there's a thing that pops up that was new to me. It's called an internet gateway. And I have no idea. I mean, I think that's...
Your internet gateway is your ISP, is your internet service provider. They have a gateway address that you go to from your router.
Okay.
So that's popping up and saying what?
That's popping up. I've never seen it before, but it pops up. And if I disable that gateway and then start it up again, it seems like it fixes the problem. But
yeah, what you're doing, I think, probably is renewing the IP address.
Okay.
That's interesting. So so a couple of suggestions from the chat room which are interesting. One is, in the router, there is a checkbox next to something called UPnP, Universal Plug and Play.
Okay.
This is nice because it's very convenient. Microsoft came up with this. It allows a program on your computer to to change the router to make it less secure, effectively.
Okay.
Xboxes like this because they can open up traffic on the router to come directly to them, things like that. It's not only a security hazard, but it can also cause problems with the router. The chat room saying it could be flooding your NAT table. I don't know what that means. Well, I do know what that means. You don't need to know what that means.
Okay.
But, you might try unchecking UNPnP. I don't know if that's the case. But it's certainly an easy thing to do, and it won't hurt anything.
Okay. Or ultimately go buy another router, I guess.
Well, I hate to do that since I think we could try to fix this. I think it is telling that it's only the compact that does this. You never have this happen with anybody else?
No, the other computers do it.
What version of Windows is the compact running?
Windows XP Service Pack 3. So I mean, I even went to the extent of replacing the network card. I had a Realtek network card in there, and I replaced it with a Linksys network card. And then the same issue comes back. But it's weird because I can surf for half an hour and then click on a page, and all of a sudden it just...
So it's not just when you're gaming. It could be just when you're surfing.
Yes. It's actually mostly when I'm surfing, and it's kind of strange. Totally puzzling to me that I can't figure this out.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem. It's one of those difficult ones to solve because it only happens sometimes, and so you can't reproduce it. Which, if you're going to get it fixed by a tech, you have to be able to say, "See, I do this, and then that happens."
Right.
If you could say, "Oh, every time I do this, that happens," that would help a lot. But it's not that way. It's intermittent.
Yes.
Is it Wi-Fi or is it wired?
It's both. It has.
It happens in both circumstances.
The connected PC, the AMD PC, it's the one that does the killing of the internet, and then everybody else in the house, family and kids, complain, "Hey, you kill our internet." So I'm the one.
Dad, stop using that old computer.
Yeah, exactly.
The chat room, at least a few people in the chat room, are determinedly saying, no, you're definitely, what's happening is you're opening too many connections to the router. It's flooding the NAT table. It's using up all the available connections in the router and knocking everybody else off. Do you get knocked off when you do this, by the way? On the
yes, I do.
You do.
Yes.
This is a very complicated one.
Right.
And it could be a lot of different things. I guess my initial reaction is it's not unusual at all for routers to do this.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's happened with two routers and it's always the same particular computer kind of now is inclining me to think it's not the router, but that computer. How do we fix that? Well, it's there's a couple of things you can do. Turn off UPnP.
Okay.
One way to try this would be to. This is a great diagnostic tip for anybody who's got a problem with a computer and you're trying to figure out is it hardware or is it software?
Right.
Is download from Ubuntu. Download a live CD of Linux. This is a bootable disk.
Okay.
That will not use Windows at all. It'll just boot from the CD. It's a little slow, but what the advantage is now we're eliminating Windows as a potential problem and any of the settings on there.
Okay.
If it still happens when you're running the Linux, then it's either hardware or it's the router. If it doesn't, then it's some way that Windows is configured. Leo Laporte. I got to tell you, this is exactly what the internet was not invented for. Chocolate Rain. Whatever happened to that guy, the Chocolate Rain guy? He recorded some albums and stuff, didn't he? Chocolate Rain. The reason, by the way, if you listen to this song by itself, just as audio, you'll say, well, yeah, that's nice. But the reason it was so successful is because this guy with his really big voice is this little guy. And so the video is what made it a hit, the YouTube video, because you go, whoa, that voice is coming out of him? Chocolate Rain. He was on Tosh, huh? Okay. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. 888-827-5536. We do get calls of all kinds, like the last call where it's a complicated tech, problem, troubleshooting issue. But today I'm also welcoming any call on any subject having to do with tech, especially welcoming to people who say, oh, I can't call that show. I'm just not geeky enough. I promise I will not mock you. I think I can safely say I am famous for being nice to people about, because I remember many years ago not knowing anything. And, of course, one of the things I like to do is learn new things. So I'm always a beginner at something. I'm a beginner ham now. And it's valuable for me to do that because it reminds me, oh, yeah, when you first start this stuff, it's like, I don't get anything. I don't understand anything. So I am very sympathetic. I know how that is. I will not mock you. Bryce, Freebird, Pennsylvania. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Hi, Bryce. I should explain that TWiT is the podcast network that I do, in addition to the radio show, because I think a lot of people listening to the radio show don't know. What is TWiT? So that's what TWiT is.
I have a question. I'm mostly blind. I have no sight in my right eye, and I'm about a quarter of the vision in my left eye.
Okay.
And what do you think about, like, the way that tech helps people with disabilities? I mean, for the fact of even having, like options, like accessibility options and such.
Well, I have to say, and sometimes they call it assistive technology.
Right.
Or adaptive technology. And I've seen tech used in so many amazing ways. It often just almost brings tears to my eyes to see people who could, for instance, only use a stick to type, or even can't even do that. There's puff typing technology. To see kids who are autistic use the iPad to be able to communicate for the first time ever. It always impresses me. And yet, it's taken a while, especially for blind users, to get companies to make sure, or websites to make sure that their stuff is accessible. You still see websites that are all Flash.
Yeah.
And that is not accessible for a blind user.
No.
If it's a text, if there's text, if you pay attention, there used to be a great website called Bobby, which unfortunately isn't around anymore. Cast used to do it. That would, you could put your URL in and it would say, well, your site is not accessible. Your site couldn't be read by somebody with screen readers. Bobby's not around anymore, but there are other services like IBM's Rational Policy Tester Accessibility Edition software and so forth. So there are ways that you can go. If you go to the CAST website, cast.org, you can find out more. I'm sorry they took Bobby down because it was really cool. And it was a really good thing for webmasters to try it. And Microsoft and Apple both have used to have spotty records with accessibility. I think both companies have worked very hard to make their products accessible. I think the iPhone is surprisingly accessible. I think OS 10, they've done a great job of accessibility, Windows 7. But you tell me, Bryce, because you're the one who has to figure out day to day how to use this stuff. What do you think? How do you think the computer industry is doing?
Well, I think it's doing all right. I got to say that I have a custom-built computer, and I have a 20-inch monitor, which seems to be all right.
I use
Firefox, and I happen to use the zoom keys a lot, to blow things up. I mean,
That's one of the reasons I love a Mac, because I can zoom in on anything very easily.
Yeah. Well, one thing I think they do need to work on is cell phones.
Oh, I agree. For instance, how do you dial a cell phone? Most of these cell phones don't have keys anymore. How do you dial it if you can't see the screen?
Well, I actually get a lot of people that ask me this, friends and such, because I usually hold my cell phone. I have an Android phone, actually, and I usually hold my phone probably about 2 inches from my face, so that
you have some sight.
A little bit, yeah.
So you're able to get some of it done. There are screen readers. Android and Apple both have screen reading capability. I think they do. I think they work. I think they work hard to do this, but I think that also awareness has to be raised all the time. I know a woman who Microsoft about a year ago hired. I thought this was really great that Microsoft did this, and her job was cross all the divisions in Microsoft to be an advocate for accessibility. Accessibility is what they call this, the ability to use this for people with various disabilities. And accessibility is something that, has to be, you have to remind people, think about this. Because, most developers aren't challenged, and so they can, they figure this is a problem in general with computer engineers and programmers. They think, well, if I can do it, it's fine. And of course, many of us are computer challenged in many ways. So raising their awareness about real people is a great thing. So Microsoft hired this woman, and she goes across all the divisions and goes around, and she's been doing this for a year, saying, accessibility, make this accessible, make it usable, make it possible. And let's not forget that the accessibility has been a very big boon for all of us, because many of the technologies, including the typing screens on the iPhone and smartphones, came from accessibility programs that were created for desktops. The ability to zoom in, all of these things trickle down from desktops and other operating systems to us because of these features were added for accessibility. So in some ways we benefit from it too. Many ways we benefit from it too, and I think that's something very important to remember. We're going to talk to Ellie in just a second from Hawaii, another one of our blind listeners. You see, we do have a few, and she's always been good about calling us and talking about accessibility on the iPad and the iPhone. I know she rattles cages and does a great job of it. Number Ellie called from Hawaii. Hi, Ellie.
Hello, Leo. I haven't talked to you in a while.
It's been a while. What is it? Blue dolphin, big dolphin, giant dolphin?
Giant dolphin.
GiantDolphin.com.
Right.
I never can remember that, but I will one of these days.
Well, you get it most of the time. You were talking about accessibility, but that's not what I called about. But there's a site called AppleVis, AppleVis, and it talks about different things that are accessible, like stuff you can use on the iPhone, stuff for the computer.
Oh, that's nice. So it's kind of a site where you can find it's resources.
Right. What works with VoiceOver, what doesn't, and people can publish stuff. Like I put something up there one day, and
that's great.
So I figured I'd put that out there for you.
Thank you. Ellie, hang on. I'll answer your question when we come back. How about that?
No problem.
Giant dolphin. Leo Laporte. You confused me. Well, a good day to you, Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. It's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, and all that jazz. And, as I said at the beginning of the show today, I want to welcome all you non-geeks to the party. This is a great, I hope, I intend it to be a great place for you to come to listen and learn about technology without being mocked or put down. I think we all need to know about technology. We don't all need to use it, but I think we all need to kind of know a little bit about it, about what's going on. It's actually pretty interesting if you put aside. I think a lot of people have fear and uncertainty, and some people feel inadequate to it. No, you shouldn't. We got 6-year-old kids who can use technology. I don't think it's that hard. I think any adult can use this. Ellie actually ended the hour last hour. She's going to start the hour this hour. Welcome back, Ellie.
Boy, I get to bookend.
You get to bookend the news. Hi, Ellie.
Right. Hi. Okay. My question is, you see these sites and these things on TV all the time, these auction sites where you can buy an iPad for $27.
Yeah.
Well, if
That's
it was too good to be true, it probably is, and I know somebody that's gotten burned by those things. So I needed your opinion and to try to put the word out for people to try to stay away from those things, I guess.
Yeah, I think one of the jobs I have is a scam buster, to remind people of these things. These $27 iPads is a known scam. It's not, and look, anybody who actually believes that you can get an iPad for $27 is pretty gullible. Somebody told me the other day they took the word gullible out of the dictionary. I had to look it up. It's still, it's still there. No, you can't. How would that work? No, you cannot get an iPad for $27. By the way, kind of a coincidence, but I think Intel's stock price is $27. Thanks in part to the iPad, isn't it? These inexpensive iPads, they're usually, if you follow up, there's other hoops you have to jump through. By the time you're done, you'll wish you had paid full price. Let's put it that way. So, no, these are, I don't think they're actively, I hate to say scam because I don't think that they're trying to rip you off, but they're trying to lead you on. They're trying to trick you into doing something, thinking you're going to get an iPad for $27. You're not. I was a mental note this week to talk about another scam. There are all sorts of scams going on all the time, and these scams just don't work if you just use your common sense and say, well, how could that happen? How could somebody sell me an iPad for $27? It just doesn't make sense. Let me see if I can find the scam that I wanted to read. I can't find it. I'll find it. Although, one of the stories I liked this week is the press got scammed. The press got scammed. I always like it when the press gets scammed. A guy created a website, and he gave it a very serious name. And he said, we've done surveys. We did tests. We tested Firefox users. These are all browsers. Chrome users. And Internet Explorer users. We tested their IQ. And you know what we found? Internet Explorer users are dumber than everybody else. And this is the amazing thing. CNN, the BBC, many news outlets uncritically published it. Well, you know why? Because it's such a good story. It's such a juicy story. They couldn't resist. But folks, think about it. Does that make any sense? It was a Canadian guy, who created a site called Apticant, Aptiquant. And if you go there, he'll say, here's 5 reasons that the media should have realized I was making a joke. 1, I created this site less than a month ago. It's not, thumbnail images of the firm's staff on the website came from a French research company. He just ripped them off. Readers caught on. Apticant issued a press release. That's all they did, saying they'd invited 100,000 web users to take IQ tests. Another problem with this is that the IQ test they were invited to take has never been offered online. It's a proprietary test which only psychotherapists and psychologists can use. After they claim the results after 100,000 users took this test, IE users, Internet Explorer users, are generally of lower intelligence. The BBC at least went to another source, a professor at Cambridge University, who said, I believe these figures are implausibly low and an insult to IE users. what is totally impressive about this hoax is that mainstream media generally just fell for it because it was on the web. Well, it's on the web. It must be true. I read it on the internet. If you go there now, aptiquant.com, you'll see this. OptiQuant was set up in late July by a comparison website at Cheap in order to launch a fake study called Intelligent Quotient and Browser Usage. How the hoax started, all the information about this, including telltale signs that should have uncovered the hoax in 5 minutes. There were grammatical errors, the website's in WordPress, the address listed on the report doesn't exist, and yet CNN, the BBC. I was not fooled by this. I saw the story, and we did not, as you probably noticed, say anything about it. Not because I felt bad for IE users, because it just didn't make any sense. So there's no reason for you to check your brains at the door when you hear about $27 iPads or ridiculously implausible claims about the intelligence of Internet Explorer users. Oh. It's just, I love it. And, you know, I'm also a little sympathetic. There's a, you know, you're on deadline, you got to rush. It's a great headline. And so all they do is they say, well, a survey from OptiQuant, a web research company, says that Internet Explorer users are dumb. Page 2. I guess it's a lesson to all of us. We shouldn't always believe what we read anywhere. Morgan, Rancho Cucamonga, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi. I'm actually going into law school, and I don't want to be one of those computer illiterate lawyers you're talking about. So I had a question.
Good. Yay, Morgan. I think it's probably, I thought for a long time it was generational. Like, you're younger. You probably grew up with the internet, and, you know, you're pretty internet alert. But, you know, sometimes it's not generational, oddly enough.
Yeah.
There are people in your generation who just are clueless. And again, it's no disparagement intended, but I think if you're in a role of power, you probably should know a little bit about this.
Right, exactly. So I'm looking to buy a Mac for school, and I don't know whether I should get an Air, a Pro, bigger is better.
I love the Air for students.
Okay.
Because you're going to be moving around a lot, right? You're going to be carrying it to class. Do they let you use the laptop in class?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Always.
Sometimes professors don't like it because of the clickety-clack.
Right.
And then some professors are so insecure they're afraid their students are Twittering and Facebooking, and maybe they are, but I think the solution is to make your make your class more interesting.
Right. That sounds like a good solution to me.
If you're boring people to death, well, maybe you ought to think about being more interesting. An Air is great then because you're carrying it around. Now, the couple of negatives on the Air.
Okay.
It's expensive. It's $1,000. You can get a cheaper Windows computer. The other negative is the lack of storage, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. So stick on the line. Stay on the line. Would you, Morgan? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. There are certainly many scams online. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We were talking about scams. You know, one thing I would point out, and maybe, Morgan, this is another good lesson for you, a future lawyer. I think there's a common feeling that somehow things are worse on the internet, you know, that because it's on the internet, it's worse, you know, child predation or scams. And, you know, the scams that are happening on the internet are precisely the same scams that con men have been doing for years. They just moved them to the internet. And I think that's really the thing about the internet. The internet should not be feared. It's just the world coming to your doorstep. And that's both good and bad. And you're right, predators, you know, can now prey on you in your home, where before you'd have to go outside. But on the other hand, you're safe at home. So I think that's an important thing to realize. The internet's no different from the real world. It's just there. It's bringing it to your desktop. So Morgan's interested in a laptop for law school. A MacBook Air, I think, an excellent choice for any student. It's lightweight. It's plenty fast enough. I think the 11-inch, not the 13-inch, because I think size is important. I've become a huge fan of the MacBook Air. It's actually my computer of choice almost all the time. I use it all the time because it is so lightweight. But you'll run up against a couple of constraints. The new MacBook Airs that Apple just put out, the good news about them is that it's got fast processors. It has this new Thunderbolt port, which means you can hook up larger hard drives, speedy hard drives, and you can hook up multiple monitors. So one nice thing, and one thing you might want to consider doing if you've got the Air, you want kind of the best of both worlds, is getting an Apple monitor. It'll add another $1,000, it'll double the cost. So it'll be $2,000 total. But the Apple monitor plugs into the mini display port. The USB plugs in. The power plugs in. You don't even open up the Air. You just put it underneath the monitor, and you have a separate keyboard and mouse. And now you've got a desktop computer with all the stuff that was on your Air. The real drawback, the only real drawback of the MacBook Air is the size of the hard drive. It's 64 gigabytes. That's kind of small. But I think many students now, you're not going to, in other words, it's not going to be big enough to put your entire music and video collection on. You probably, if you're a photographer, you wouldn't want to, put all your photos on it. But it's more than enough for your law studies, especially because you may be, I would suggest that you use these cloud-based things like Google Docs for your word processor and your spreadsheet and your database. And Google Docs is a good choice. Apple will have its own by this fall. iCloud. Looks like they'll have word processors and so forth. So I think that's why 64 gigs isn't so much of a problem, because a lot of your data is not stored on this, but is stored on the internet, where it's, by the way, safe.
So I thought maybe I would get a Pro, but judging by
too heavy, too big. You don't need it.
Okay.
If you really, really want a bigger hard drive, you could do what I did. You can go to macsales.com, Otherworld Computing, and they sell, replacement solid-state drives for your Air. You could put more storage in there. I put 256 gigs in there. It was $500 more. It's expensive, but now this is the kind of the ideal computer. It's not only lightweight, I can carry it anywhere. It's fast because it's a solid-state drive. That makes a huge difference. But also, it's got plenty of storage now.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do that until you've used it for a while.
Right. Are there any extras that I should be adding when I go?
No. The only thing, do you think you'll run Windows at all, Aaron?
Maybe.
Then you might want to get more memory, more RAM. It comes with the basic model. I think is 2 gigs of RAM. You might want to get 4. That's $100 more.
Okay.
But again, and I mentioned this right up front. The chat room saying, "But Leo, it's so expensive." I mentioned it right up front. It is pricier. It's more expensive. Apple products are more expensive. There are some reasons for that. One, because they can get away with it. They're the only manufacturer. But the other reason is because they have better support. The price of support is bundled in. And frankly, they use better components. I don't think there's a PC that compares in terms of build, feel, fit and finish, quality with this MacBook Air. And I think at $1,000, the MacBook Air is actually fairly reasonably priced.
Okay. And the 11-inch rather than the 13?
Yeah, I mean, that's a personal choice. You can look at the 13. It's not much bigger or heavier. I find the 11 is plenty. Mostly you're going to be doing word processing and research, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's fine for that.
Okay.
So, here's what you should do. Go to the Apple Store and spend a day. They don't mind. Banging on this. See which one you like. It's very important, since you'll be doing a lot of typing, to make sure you like the keyboard and the screen and so forth.
Okay.
You can get a Windows PC for half the cost.
Right. I'm pretty dead set on a Mac.
Yeah.
So.
Then to me, the 11-inch Air is the most perfect computer ever made. Seriously, I shouldn't say this, but I'm in love with this computer. And I think you will be too.
Well, thank you.
Good luck in your studies. So you're going next year, this fall?
Yes.
That's so exciting. That's so exciting. You know what kind of law you want to practice?
I'm actually thinking about intellectual property.
Yeah.
More science. But
I tell you what, IP law is very interesting right now, with software patents and even the notion of intellectual property. For people who want to know, that's what patents and trademarks and copyright's all about. The idea that something you create in your mind intellectually is property is a very interesting. And some people say no, there's no such thing. It's a very interesting and I think a very exciting area to be in right now. Good for you.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy it, Morgan.
Thanks.
Take care. Yeah, I shouldn't admit it. I know it sounds a little kind of weird. I love my MacBook Air. And actually, I have the original, not the original, but I did have the original, which I did not recommend. It was too slow. It overheated. That was the first Air that they made. This is the one that came out last fall. They have upgraded it since with a much faster chip and the new Thunderbolt port. If I were buying one today, of course I would get that one, but I don't feel the urgency to do that. Oh, and the backlit. I think backlit keyboard is actually pretty important, so you could type in the dark. But I don't. Let me put it this way, and you know me, I tend to buy the newest, greatest, latest thing. I don't feel a lot of urgency to get the new Air. I'm very happy with the fall 2011 Air, and most of the people I know who use MacBook Airs agree. It's been a very big seller for Apple. They really, really like it. Alan, Irvine, California, called 8888 Ask Leo, and he's next on the air. Hi, Alan. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Good afternoon, Leo. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
It's nice to talk to you. Thanks for calling.
I have two questions. One is more of a comment. I'm now a TWiT follower.
Thank you.
I love watching you. I didn't know you had so many other shows.
You know, it's funny. People listen on the radio, and I do the Tech Guy show, but during the week, I do another, I think, 20 shows about technology.
You are a very busy man.
Internet only.
Here I thought you were just having a wonderful life and coming in on the weekend.
I wish. I don't, what was I thinking? I make a good living just doing the radio show. I could have had 5 days off a week. I could be fishing. I could be relaxing. But no, I'm not that kind of person. And I said, well, I should do something else during the Monday through Friday. And we started TWiT. And now it's a huge success, and I'm very happy about it. Live.twit.tv if you want to take a look. And Alan, hang on, because we're going to take a break. We'll talk to you in just a moment. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Leo, is it time? Should I speak now? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I'm actually enjoying the song. This is the song. I see Apple does a great job with their ads. And they made was it Feast popular with 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this has become very popular. Just it's like your dream come true if you're an artist. Get on an Apple ad. So this is from the MacBook Air ad. All right. The really old one. You know, Eminem sued. They used Lose Yourself on a great, it was a beautiful iPad ad. You remember, or iPod ad. It was a few years ago. Remember that it was an ad for an iPod, and as you saw this guy's feet, and as he was walking, things would turn in color as his feet hit the ground. It was beautiful. And it used Lose Yourself from 8 Mile, Eminem's song, in it, which was a great song for it. And he said, I didn't give you permission for that. That's when you know you're too fat and happy, when you're too rich. When that publicity, when you say, I don't know, I don't want to sell any more records. I want Apple to pay me a license fee so that I could sell more records. Either he's clueless or his people are clueless. Or, and I think this is probably the case, he just has a big ego and doesn't need the money. Said, no, you can't use. And by the way, he's right. It's his song. Apple should ask permission before they use it. I think that's fair. Nobody ever complains because it's worth millions of dollars. But, it's interesting. This is maybe a little arrogance on Apple's part too, right? We don't have to ask. We don't have to ask anybody. We could use any song we want. Why would they complain? Alan Irvine, sorry about putting you on hold there. Welcome back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. How do you like that? This is the problem. There's nothing Google can do about it, but the problem with Android phones is that because Google says anybody can use Android, the operating system, there are so many, and a better one comes out every month. And, of course, consumers hate that. Apple's very careful not to release new iPhones but every year. Yeah, but that shouldn't be. I mean, if from a purely objective point of view, you're no worse off than you would be if you'd bought an iPhone. You're still not going to get a new phone, but every year.
Still very happy with it.
Yeah.
And there's a new one every week, so.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it was always a problem with PCs, right?
That's
As soon as you bought a PC, the day you got it home is the day the new one, the better one came out.
That's right.
You just have to get used to it. That's kind of we geeks are used to it because we've been living with it. But I know this is a whole new bunch of people buying cell phones, and it drives them crazy. But I just bought my Droid 2. There's a Droid 3 now? Anyway, I'm glad you like your MyTouch. I think they're nice phones.
Yeah, my wife is going to go on a road trip, and she's taking the girls with her, and she wants to use the tethering feature to her laptop, and she'd like to even watch Netflix
right.
if she can. Now, I don't know why, but T-Mobile has kind of made it a little bit difficult to find out the definitive answer as to is this free or not, and exactly how to do it.
It's free if they ain't charging you.
It's right, and that's kind of what I found out going through all the blogs.
Right.
Most people on the blogs seem to be trying to get what they can out of a limited plan, and so that's the information I've been looking at, and I just want to know if I have to root my phone to do this, if I have an unlimited plan, or
if you don't see the feature, what version of the operating system do you have on there? Is it Froyo?
I'm sure it's Froyo. I got the phone when it first came out, and I haven't updated to the gingerbread yet, and I'm waiting for you to talk about that, too.
Google, by the way, names its versions of Android. You know, code names are so much fun. Google names its Android versions after desserts. So there was, and it's alphabetic. So there was donut, it was cupcake, donut, eclair, froyo. That's F. G was gingerbread.
Right.
And then there's H and I. There's honeycomb and ice cream sandwich, I think. So
we're up to ice cream sandwich now.
Well, but honeycomb and ice cream sandwich are for tablets. That's a little confusing. Actually, honeycomb is ice cream sandwich will be a unified. So you could skip honeycomb, but we're getting close to ice cream sandwich. I just like saying it. It's fun. But gingerbread, for your phone, gingerbread's probably the right phone. And gingerbread does have tethering built in unless the carrier disables it.
Now, I don't know if they're going to do that or not. So far they've said
T-Mobile's pretty good. In fact, I have no, I think T-Mobile. Now, if you check, they probably say, yes, there's an additional charge for tethering. So there's two kinds of ways you can use your phone for internet access. Tethering is where you have a USB cable on the phone and you plug it into your computer and the computer says, I see a device. Would you like me to use that for the internet access? That's tethering. And then there's hotspot, which is better, which is basically turns the phone into a mobile Wi-Fi access point.
Okay.
Which means multiple people can use it. It's nice. So hotspotting and tethering are both built into Froyo, unless T-Mobile disables it. T-Mobile probably will say, yes, there's a charge for that. I think they said $15, but they have to catch you, or they have to let you. In other words, they don't just do it until they charge you. It's free until they charge you.
Right, and I've heard that if you are a high user, then that's one of the ways they can catch you is it shoots up a red flag.
Possibly. I've been using it and never had a problem. Never got charged.
You watching Netflix?
Now that's a good point. Netflix is not available on all phones. I don't know if it's available on the MyTouch. It's available on a couple of dozen different Android models, but not all. And that's because I believe Netflix is worried about piracy, or the movie industry is worried about piracy, and Netflix is reflecting.
The phone's internet, using the phone's internet either as a hotspot or using the USB tethering, you're still using the phone, and it's going to recognize the Netflix.
It will see. It will be able to tell it's Netflix. If you not all phones can you actually install a Netflix app on, but you can on some Android phones. I don't know if the MyTouch is one of them. If you're using tethering, or hotspotting to put Netflix on a tablet, for instance, or well, for one thing, the speed's not going to be great. You're not going to get a great image. But and you will use a lot of bandwidth. You'll use about a gig an hour, maybe more. Netflix can go up to 2 gigabytes of data an hour. On most of these packages, you get 5 gigabytes a month. Even unlimited. AT&T just announced that this week. Well, you could be unlimited, but if you go too high, we're going to slow you down.
I see.
So, you should check to see if you have an unlimited plan. You should check to see what that means in the real world.
Okay. Is the degree of difficulty in...
no, it's easy.
On either the hotspot versus the USB cable about the same?
Yeah. On the hotspot, you can treat it just like a wireless access point. You'll have to give it a name and a password.
Oh, that does sound easy. You just turn it on and
turn it on.
Sign in.
Yeah.
And then you can also have other people sign in, and you can limit who else can sign in.
I think you can have up to 5 people, and of course you give it a password, so only people with passwords will be able to use it.
Oh, that's the way to go.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I use it frequently if I'm in a situation. Well, for instance, my MacBook Air, which really ought to have 3G built in, but doesn't. I just use my phone. Okay. And the Air sees the phone and says, and I have a naming convention for all my Wi-Fi access points, so I can quickly find it. I name it after dead rock stars. So at home I have Hendrix, I have Joplin, I have Morrison, and I guess I can have Winehouse now. That's terrible. That's sick. That's macabre, and I apologize.
Well, I told you I'm watching you on TWiT TV, and I just realized that you're in a hermetically sealed.
I am. I'll talk about that when we come back. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Too soon? Too soon.
A color TV. Oh, Lord, won't you buy me a night on the town? I'm counting on you, Lord. Please don't let me down.
Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Prove that you love
8888
me and buy
ask.
the next round. Oh,
Yeah,
Lord,
that's the number.
won't you buy
That's a little
me
Janis Joplin
a
there.
night
I'm sorry. I
on the
apologize.
town?
But that's just how I do it. Other people use Greek gods. That's good. It's nice to have a naming convention for your access points because then you know which is yours. Kind of conventional wisdom is if you use Wi-Fi, you shouldn't name it your name, your family name or your street address. And I don't know why. I guess you just don't want to announce this is where the computers are, bad guys. Come over here. I got computers over here. But everybody's got computers now, so I don't know if it's so dangerous. But I got used to doing that. It's kind of fun having a naming convention. It could be colors in the rainbow, and then when you see red, orange, yellow, blue, green, indigo, violet that it's one of your servers, and you can do that. So Alan, yeah, I think this is I wouldn't use tethering. I'd use hotspot. It's just about as fast as tethering, and it works nice.
I like your idea of the dead rock stars.
That's kind of creepy.
And I think Janis is a star.
Janis is definitely one. And I call it Joplin. I use the last name. Actually, Joplin is what I use on my phone for my... So you were saying that you have now started watching the video, and I wanted to give myself a plug, if you don't mind. We do have a podcast network all week long called TWiT, This Week in Tech. And if you want to watch video of this show or any of our shows, you can watch it live on the web at live.twit.tv. But we also make podcasts of this show and all of our shows available on iTunes. If you just search iTunes for TWiT, that's pretty easy, or Google TWiT, you'll find everything. We do shows on security, Windows, Mac, open source software, intellectual property, This Week in Law. Morgan, you should listen to that. All sorts of great stuff. I'm pretty proud of it. We just built a beautiful new studio, which you can see live on the live stream, live.twit.tv. There's the plug. Mark in Cleveland, Ohio, you're next. Hi, Mark. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hello?
Hey, Mark.
No, this is Jim in Woodland Hills.
Okay, I'll take you. Hi,
okay.
Mark, you'll be next.
Okay, I've got a two-part question, but the first one is really quick. Now that the Apple stores are only selling the MacBook Pro and the Air, is the cheaper MacBook just gone?
Yeah, well, it's gone except for education. You can still buy it if you're a school. So in the most recent release of hardware, which was just a few weeks ago, Apple silently, without any notice, killed the plastic white $1,000 MacBook. They think, and I think they're right, the MacBook Air is probably going to be their go-to laptop. In fact, the rumors are they made 17 million of them for this quarter, expecting huge sales.
They apparently think people have a lot more money than they have, but they may be right.
Well, the Airs are the same price. They're $1,000. They're $999. Starting point.
That actually leads to my other question, which is if I did break down and spend $1,000, this may be the most Luddite question you'll get all day on your Facebook.
I've been begging for Luddite questions.
Well, I have never used a Wi-Fi hotspot.
What?
One of the reasons is because I always wonder about the security. So what can you tell me if I got this Air and went out to Starbucks, how secure is what I'm doing?
Well, Starbucks, not so.
Okay.
So that's a great question. I'm really glad you asked that. If you are using your home access, wireless access, it is 100% as secure as wired access. If you do one and only one thing, it's very simple. On your wireless access point, your Linksys or Netgear or D-Link router, you turn on something called WPA2 encryption.
Right. I've got that on my home one, but I've never
that makes you as secure as wired. Just that by itself, you don't have to do anything else unless somebody hacks your password. And if you should use a good password. You shouldn't use Joplin as your password, obviously. But there is a big problem when you go to open wireless access points, whether it's yours or the coffee shops down the street. When you're on an open access point, you're on a network that anyone can be on, and they can watch your traffic as it floats by.
That's what I worry about.
That's what you should worry about. In fact, I think we've had a spate of callers over the last few months who have had their email accounts hacked, and I would be willing to bet that one of the primary ways people get their email accounts hacked is going to open access spots and then not using a secure connection to the email provider, which means that when they type in their login and password, it's just floating through the air and anybody can grab it. They don't have to stay at the coffee shop. At that point, they can go home and access your email forevermore until you change your password. So now, the solution to this is something called HTTPS. When we go to a website, it's http:// Thank goodness we don't have to say that anymore. But you still see that there in your browser. And so HTTP is the protocol that we use for getting onto websites, the Hypertext Transfer Protocol. There's a secure version of that, HTTPS, which is scrambled. If you're using HTTPS, even if you're at a coffee shop, your transaction is invisible. The bad guys can't see it. And it's strong encryption. They really can't see it. But
would that even apply to things like if I went to a Gmail account, for example?
Yes. Well, that's the good news is Google gets this. So Google Gmail is HTTPS for the entire time, for the password and everything. You should make sure you turn that on in the settings, but it's on by default. Facebook just recently realized this. What happened was there was a Firefox plugin called FireSheep that's been downloaded by millions of people. I downloaded it. You can go into a coffee shop, be running Firefox with the FireSheep plugin, and you can it's really kind of scary. You can see all the people in the coffee shop who are using Facebook, Twitter, Google, other accounts, and you can log in as them.
That's just plain scary.
It's really scary. You could go, and I went over to my local coffee shop. I wanted to do them a favor. And I said, look, I got to show you this. I'm a good guy. I would never use this. But watch. I can see all the people who are in this coffee shop who are on Facebook right now. And I actually said to one of the employees, now, Vanessa, would you log into your Facebook account? Vanessa, before I do this, I want to get your permission. I'm going to show you how I can be you. She said, okay. So she logged in. Her name appeared in my list in Firefox. And I clicked it, and now I'm Vanessa. And I said, well, watch this, Vanessa. I can post a status update as you. Now, I don't get your password, but I could send an email. I could post a status update. I could do all the things you could do on Facebook. But you know what? Security researchers celebrated FireSheep because it raised the awareness of something that's been going on all along, that this is easy to do. And as a result, Facebook and other sites have now added secure surfing. So turn on, if you're on Facebook, turn on HTTPS. It's in your settings, in your security. Turn it on. Make sure it stays on, because unfortunately sometimes it gets turned off by games and other Facebook apps. Make sure it stays turned on. Gmail is safe. Google Plus is safe. It's HTTPS by default. More and more things are safe. And the Electronic Frontier Foundation, if you use Firefox, has a plugin called HTTPS Everywhere, which does this. It will lock it down. That's a very good way to use an open access spot. But no matter what, you're absolutely right, Jim. When you're on an open access point, you should be aware of this. You should be careful. It would be best not to do anything you don't want anybody to see. And if you are going to do that, make sure it's an HTTPS, S for secure, connection.
Okay.
And that's all you have to do. I'm really glad you asked that. It's not well known. It's not widely known, and it's really, 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 really important. If you're using your internet, many internet service providers offer secure connections, but don't turn it on by default. So check, see if it's possible in your email client, Outlook or Windows Live Mail or Apple Mail. Go into the settings, and you'll see you can choose to do a secure login. And if your internet service provider is smart, they've turned that on, and you'll now be secure. If it breaks it, if it says I can't log in, well, you might want to call your ISP and say, can you please turn on secure login, because I don't want to be, I want to be using open access points, and I don't want to be giving away my email password. There are other ways around this. You could use what's called a virtual private network. Maybe your company offers one. If it does, you could log into your virtual private network, your VPN from the coffee shop, and then your surfing would be safe. If you have Go to My PC, you could use that. That's secure. There are companies that offer commercial VPNs you can use to give you secure, and that when you're using a virtual private network, all of your traffic is hidden from the bad guy. It's all automatically secure. So that's an alternative. There's a number of these. Strong VPN is a good one. STRONG, like strongman VPN. I think it's .com. But it's not free. It's a paid service, and sometimes people don't want to spend the money. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. I'm Leo Laporte, the tech guy. More to come after your local news. You stay here now. Well, a good day to you. Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. And it's time to talk about computers, the internet, cell phones, camcorders, MP3 players, home theater, all that jazz. All the doodads and G-jaws that make up this digital world of ours. My phone number, 8888 Ask Leo. That's 888-827-5536. We got a great chat room, by the way. I love our chat room. I always mean to mention it more. If you want to visit it, just go to the website, techguylabs.com, and there's a link there. More than 1,000 people in the chat right now, which is always mind-boggling. What we do if we get more than 1,000 people is we split it off into different rooms. So we have several rooms. Great moderators who keep an eye on things, and a lot of them. Warpoli and TechZen, Nightflyer and Mick Marmot, Life's a Zoo, Knox Harrington, Kevin H., Inferno 10, Icon, Houdini 7, Hip, Darthema, CWBP, and our chief moderator, Dan. They're all in there keeping an eye on things. But, I love it because these people are so smart. They're kind of my brains. And while we're in the breaks, while we're doing the local news and stuff, I like to talk with them and chat with them. And I was showing them, we had some interest in modding the Android phone, so I was showing them how I rooted and put a modded ROM on my T-Mobile G2X, which I love, my favorite phone, love it. Especially now that I've got this additional software on it. Modding, by the way, rooting and jailbreaking, which people do to the iPhone, the jailbreak, is completely legal. We actually got a ruling from the Librarian of Congress, who's responsible for copyright and so forth, and he said, nope, it's legal. You own the hardware, you can root it, you can mod it. Apple doesn't like that too much. They weren't too happy with that decision, but there it is. It's not illegal to modify your hardware. Thank goodness, because that's part of the fun of being a geek. Anyway, the chat room was asking, and I'm sorry I missed your name, but it scrolled past. There's so many people in there, about the ports on the MacBook Air. What's on here? And MacBook Airs have 2 USB ports, and that's your chief connectivity, although Apple has now introduced something that they jointly developed with Intel. It was originally called LightPeak because it was going to be a fiber-based port. They never did get the fiber working. They used copper for it, for the connectors, for the cable, for the port itself. And so as a result, they changed the name from LightPeak to Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt. Holy Zeus. And Thunderbolt is kind of, I guess, really the successor to things like FireWire. It's a competitor to USB 3. It's a kind of multi-purpose port that's on now every Mac except the new Mac Pros, or the existing Mac Pros don't have it. I imagine Apple will release some Mac Pros pretty darn soon that will have Thunderbolt. But the Airs have it, their laptops have it, their iMacs have it. It looks just like the mini display port that came on most recent Macs. That's the new connector, the DisplayPort connector. But besides carrying video and audio for a monitor, it also carries data and is powered and is very fast. Very fast, 10 gigabits a second fast. So fast that you could easily connect to a hard drive and more and have plenty of speed left over for a monitor and so forth. So that's the new thing that Apple is putting on its newest computers, including the new MacBook Airs. Thunderbolt. You might say, well, what can I do with it? Right now, nothing. We've been waiting for Thunderbolt-enabled hard drives, still are waiting. A company called Blackmagic, which does video stuff, has all sorts of interesting uses for Thunderbolt, video mixers and stuff, but I don't think they've shipped anything yet. So right now, it's still just a monitor connector. You can connect a monitor to it. It's something. Mark in Cleveland, you were very patient. I thought I was picking you up last hour, and I picked up Jim instead. Hi, Mark. Thanks for holding on.
Hi, Leo. And my question is basically I'd like to get a firewall that can shut off ingoing and outgoing traffic while I'm away from my computer without having to shut down.
Oh, that's a good idea. So you'd like a button that you push and it just says, you're off.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and that way I could walk away. Right now I'm behind 2 levels in that translation, and somebody was able to get in and wipe my hard drive on my computer.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So I called my vendor up who had the firewall, and they said, yeah, well, nothing's perfectly secure, so it's possible somebody can get in. I'm thinking, well, what about the internet lock? And it's like, well, since version 9, we haven't, that internet lock didn't really work. I'm thinking, oh, great.
Well, of course, you can always go to the wall and unplug the connection. That's probably very effective. Some routers have the ability to, in fact, this is what I would use, disable internet access on a schedule. So sometimes it's called an ACL, or access control list. All the routers I use have this built in, where you go in and you say, after 10 p.m. and before 6 a.m., disconnect. And all internet access is blocked.
Well, that would work, I guess. But if it's just for like 30 minutes.
Right.
40,
what do you do if you just want to get up?
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out why they defeated that feature and then didn't tell anybody about it and left people vulnerable.
What company was it that did that?
Zone Alarm.
Oh, it was in their software firewall.
Right.
Yeah. I don't like Zone Alarm. I stopped. I was one of the people that put Zone Alarm on the map when it first came out. It was a huge revelation, but this is almost 10 years ago now. I would try Comodo, COMODO.com.
Yes. I was reading a review on that.
I think they make a very good firewall. But in general, the problem with software firewalls, when you're talking security, is it's running on the same computer that the malware might be running on. So it can be modified by malware. Any security solution that's running on the same computer that it's protecting has an inherent vulnerability. It's accessible to the malware. So the best firewall is not the software running on your computer. The best firewall is a physical hardware firewall, your router, or you could go out and get something more sophisticated, a UTM device, a box that you connect, as a firewall itself. Your router's a pretty good firewall. Those things are going to work much better than any software-based switch. And, Zone Alarm was really prone to this problem because it was so widely used that a lot of malware was written specifically to look for Zone Alarm and modify its behavior. So it might have been a false sense of security you were getting. Boy, I'd be very concerned if a bad guy reached into your computer and erased your hard drive, because I don't know of any malware that does that anymore. It used to be a thing to do, as when bad guys were merely vandals. Nowadays, they're not vandals. It's organized crime. Nowadays, they want to use your computer to do bad stuff. And the last thing they want to do is format your hard drive. So if something reached into your system and formatted the hard drive, that means somebody... And I'm not convinced that this is what happened, but if that did really happen, then that means some bad guy is out to get you. And I certainly wouldn't rely on software protection for that. Make it easy to get up and unplug the Ethernet cable. That would be a good way to do it. I would use an access control list built into the router to turn it off at night, and then how hard is that to reach over and disconnect the Ethernet? Or shut down the computer. It's a pretty nasty thing to do, to delete your hard drive. That's going a little far. 8888 Ask Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Once again, Kyle Benham at the controls, playing the hits. Kyle, did you always want to be a DJ? Is that it?
I love music.
He says he loves music. I'll tell you, I got into radio back in 1976 in college because I loved music. I wanted to be a DJ and talking funny voices. And then I found out, I don't know why I didn't know this, that when you get a real job, they tell you what to play. And then I found out they also tell you, shut up. When I was working at a station that slogan was light rock, less talk, I kind of knew, because I was the talk, that what they were really saying is light rock, less Leo. That's when I realized, I should get a talk show, because then I can talk the whole time. And now the music's just a little filler. See, Kyle? I'm always using my noggin here. 8888 Ask Leo, that's the number. 888. And it's easy to find somebody, by the way, who can just say, 56 degrees in the city, 819 on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. And now Neil Diamond and Holly Holy. I mean, anybody can do that. Rick in Carpinteria, Leo Laporte, Donald in Carpinteria, the Hello, tech guy. Hi, Donald.
Hi. You remember me? I'm from the Otaku No podcast.
Ah, Taco Nu! Yes, I do remember you, the great podcast about crazy Japanese people.
Yeah, we went to Anime Expo, which is like the biggest anime convention in North America, certainly, earlier this month. And I've been putting up video, interviews, photos all month.
Oh, awesome. Good for you. OTAKUNO podcast. Now, wait a minute. Now, how did you do this? I got this thing that says, greetings, Google user.
It's a WordPress plugin called Referrer Detector.
It says, you found your way to the Otaku No podcast, a podcast dedicated to the latest news, reviews, and commentary on all things anime and manga. If you like what you see here, why not subscribe to us in iTunes? What a good idea. So this is really saying, hey, you should subscribe.
Right.
Yeah, what a good idea.
Yeah. So I have a question. I have an audio question.
Yes, sir.
Normally, I have most of my co-hosts via Skype, but for a recent show, we actually had more than one person here in, quote-unquote, in studio with me. And I have a couple of mics. I have a PR40 for myself, and I have some SM58s that I set up for my guests. My problem was that it's like the mics, everybody kind of echoed on everybody's channel, so there was this weird echo. Fortunately, I was recording through my Onyx mixer, so I've had everybody on their own track, so I was able to go through and cut out the echo, but that was a lot of...
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any way that I could minimize that sort of
First, let me apologize. This is podcast 101 for everybody. I'm sorry. But it's okay. It's okay. That's true. If you have multiple microphones in a room, you're going to hear, on some of the microphones, you're going to hear other people. One thing to do is get them far away from each other, as far away as you can in that room. You're using very directional microphones, which is a good thing. There are different kinds of microphones. There's omnidirectional. And there's directional. Omnidirectional, as you might think, picks up audio from all different directions. But the directional mic, just like a directional antenna, aims itself. And the PR40, which is what I use, Bob Heil's amazing microphone, is a very directional mic. So, in fact, you can hear it. If I turn the mic sideways as I'm talking, you can hardly hear what I'm saying. I don't even know if you can hear what I'm saying. It really falls off quickly. But every microphone's a microphone, and it's going to pick up audio in the room, especially if you have an echoey room. So one way is to get people spread far apart, to use directional microphones, but then you also want to deaden the room because, even if I'm 3 feet away from you, if your voice is bouncing off the wall and coming back into my microphone, I'm going to hear it. So a lot of that echo is just the room itself.
Got it.
So now it's easy. You don't have to put up special soundproofing material like radio stations do. Sometimes you go into a radio station, it feels like all the air is being sucked out of your head because they're so silent. And there's a kind of room designed to be maximally silent. They call it an anechoic chamber, a chamber that has no echoes, an anechoic chamber. And when you go in there, it's weird. You're used to hearing some echoes in a room. You just don't notice it, except on a recording you might. So, but there's lots of ways without putting up, egg cartons on the wall, which are a fire hazard. Curtains. I use drapes in all of my studios. I like the feel and look of heavy velvet drapes. Bookshelves are great. Carpeting is great. Your enemy is highly reflected surfaces at a right angle to one another. So one of the reasons radio stations, for instance, will tilt the glass in the control room window is so that it's not at a right angle that your voice bounces off of. Think of every surface as a mirror for sound. And you know how if you tilt a mirror, the light will bounce into a different direction. You think of it as a mirror, and what you want to do is you want to do things that will block the bouncing.
All right.
And actually, that's a value to more than just podcasters. If you've got you want to hear good sound in your TV room, same thing. Why do you think theaters have those big curtains on the wall? Most theaters are really horrible echo chambers. They're concrete walls at right angles. They're square boxes with concrete walls. That's about as bad as you can get. So they put curtains on the walls, or look at the next time you go to the movie theater, look at the walls, see what they've done. There's carpets sometimes on the wall. The chairs help. The seats help. Oftentimes the roof will not be straight, or the floor will not be straight. Again, bouncing echoes. You want to break up those bouncing echoes. I was in a beautiful studio at the George Lucas's Skywalker Ranch. They have one of the few symphonic recording studios left. This is a studio big enough to hold 130 musicians all at the same time. I was there for a recording of the soundtrack for a Sony game, Uncharted 2. It was at the invitation of the composer. Actually, no, the arranger. Very nice fella. And, boy, I'll never forget that because sitting in the middle of a symphony orchestra is a pretty amazing thing. But these big rooms, they do all sorts of interesting things to break up these echoes, including, and they had these in the Lucas studio, it looked like a little mini wall. It was only a few feet across and about 8 feet tall. But instead of being a flat wall, it was made up of wooden blocks pushed in at various lengths. So it looked like one of those things you ever go to the store, and they have those things where you press your face into those pins and it makes a profile of you. It looked like that. It looked like, but it was all uneven. And the whole idea of that is the wood absorbs sound, and the fact that it's not a flat surface but a varying surface, it actually makes it almost an absorber. And they put that in front of a horn section, for instance, so that the blats from the horn wouldn't go past that absorbent wall into the microphones of the other instruments. There's a real art to doing this. You want to have some liveness. It does sound a little odd when everything's dead, but not too much. 8888 Ask Leo. That's my phone number if you want to call. As you can tell, I'll talk about anything. I am Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Laporte, the tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Rick in Long Beach, California. Leo Laporte here. What can I do for you today?
Oh, boy, Leo, you know, I wanted to tell you, first of all, I'm a law student, like your last caller.
Morgan, yeah.
And I want to tell you that for your jury duty, if they weren't guilty of something, they wouldn't be there. So
no, don't say that. That's wrong. The judge told me not to say that.
Oh, well, you know. I guess I may learn differently when I'm done with law school.
Have you ever been on a jury?
I have. Actually, I was on the famous Beverly Hills case when someone threw a parking meter lady through one of those big, giant...
I think we're losing you, Rick. I think the district attorney got a hold of your phone. Rick, are you there? Oh, I'm going to put him on hold in case he comes back. He's obviously on a cell phone, and it's decided to go somewhere else. Moving along to Kathleen in Largo, Florida. Hi, Kathleen. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, Leo.
Hi, Kathleen. How are you?
Good, good.
What can I do for you?
I had a question about transferring a website. I have a small dog breeding business, and I only breed a couple times a year, but I pay a lady money in Ohio to take care of my website, and I send her pictures to update the website for me.
Yeah.
What I was wondering is there a way for me to transfer the website to my name so I can do the updates and all that kind of stuff myself?
Yes, of course. It's your site.
Well, the thing is, what I'm afraid of is if I cancel it with her prior to...
Yes. It's going to take some cooperation. It depends on how she did it. So here's how a website works. There's kind of three pieces to it. First of all, the name. And I presume you have a name, Kathleen's Dog Breeder or whatever it is. .com. So that name is registered with an internet domain registrar.
Yes, I have. I know of that, yes.
Yeah. So, and then she went somewhere, maybe the same place, maybe different, to contract for web hosting. That's where the computers live with your website on it. So that's part one and part two. Part three, of course, is the content itself. So you need to recover all three in order to get your site back into your name. So if you know what domain registrar she used, now here's the question, did she do it for you or did you do it?
She did it for me.
So it's probably registered in her name.
Yeah, I think it is. I just have my own, I know my own website, of course, and all that kind of stuff, but I think it's registered under her name.
Okay, so she has, if she is adversarial in the least, you could have a problem because she owns the name, not you.
Yeah, now she has said on her website that she will transfer the name, but she won't transfer what she's done to the website.
I understand because she made it, so that's not unreasonable. But so first we got to get the name back, and that's going to require her cooperation because she has to. It's hers. She owns it, regardless of the fact that it's your trademark. She owns the registration, so she needs to go to the registrar and say, "I want to transfer the domain name registration over to Kathleen."
Now, can I go into another, say, GoDaddy and do it under that website, have my domain name under...
You can, but not without her cooperation. So the current domain registrar has to allow it to be transferred over to another registrar.
Now, can I transfer, let's say, the format of my website?
Well, let's finish, because there's three things, okay? So there's three things. I'm going to go through all three for you. So that's job one, and you need her cooperation. You have to say, please, nice web designer, I would like to, would you please transfer the domain registration to me? It's more than just her transferring it to GoDaddy. She has to transfer it to you, to your account. Okay, so that's number one, and without that, you're kind of out of luck because you could lose the domain name. You can go to court, you could pursue it. It's your trademark, so you could pursue it. But I
don't think there'll be any problem transferring the name. It's just I know she won't.
Yeah. She's any reasonable designer. This is what she's gonna. This is exactly what she's gonna say. Is of course it's your name. I will give it to you. Just tell me where you want to transfer it. So you need to go. I wouldn't go to GoDaddy. I hate them. Go to somebody. Go to hover.com. They're a sponsor. But if you don't want to go to a sponsor, go to Dotster's. Very good.
How you spell hover?
HOVER.com.
Okay.
And you have to set up an account first with them. And then you'll say to your nice web designer, hey, I have an account at hover.com. Please transfer our domain over there. But now, she also has web hosting. And you got to find out where that is. The assets that she created, she's asserting I own. She says, those are mine. I made those. You can't have them. Right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, basically.
Do you want them?
Yeah, I would want a different background and things like that, but I would like to set up just so I could be in control of it and do whatever I want, change paragraphs, change whatever, but I just didn't know whether I needed to get another person to set up the website and they would have to go from scratch.
You're going to have to look at what your contract with her is and what the understanding is, because if she created graphics and she says, I own those graphics, you can't do that legally.
Yeah, okay. That's what I wanted to make sure before I...
Now, those pictures you've been sending her, those are yours.
Yeah.
But the design she made for you, if just talk to her. Say, hey, can I have that design? And she probably will say, you can, but I need this much money or whatever.
Yeah, well, I've asked her that before. I said, can I just still send you the money and then take control of it myself? I said, I don't mind paying her for it, but she has refused that.
Actually, they're making a good point in the chat room, which is true. And I'm not a lawyer, so I'm the wrong guy to ask. This was work for hire. So it depends on what your contract is with her. But generally speaking, for instance, if my employees create something while working for me, I own it because it was work for hire. So, but it just really depends on what the contract is. You may have agreed to some other terms. It sounds like she is asserting some other ownership. So it really depends on what the contract is.
Oh, so they're saying that I basically own it because I'm paying for it?
Yeah, because it's work for hire.
Okay.
Normally, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm giving you my best understanding of this. But if there is no contract asserting otherwise, stuff she did for you when she was working for you, you own. If you went out and hired a programmer and they wrote a program for you, unless there was some other understanding, you own that program, not them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So that's up in the air because I don't know what your agreement is.
Yeah.
And then finally, you need to find a web host. It could be GoDaddy. It could be Squarespace. You have to find a hosting company that you can move those assets over to, and you will tell that hosting company what the name of the domain is, and there's some technical stuff. You might need a technical expert to help you make this transition.
Okay. I was going to change the name and just add an S or something to my website and have...
Why do that? You've got people going to your website. They know you. Why...
Yeah, they do.
Why confuse them?
Okay. And how long should it take to get it all figured up?
It usually takes no more than a week to transfer the domain name if she cooperates. Getting the assets from her, it's actually easy to get the assets because anybody who goes to the website is getting the assets. All those graphics and everything, that's all being transferred into your browser. So every time you go to that website, you're actually getting all the images. Yeah, and then you have to decide, are you going to do this yourself? Is somebody going to help you?
Someone's going to help me, I think.
This would be a good candidate for Squarespace.com, but if you've got somebody to help you, they can help you transfer those assets over. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Let's say hi to Gene. He's on the line from Wisconsin. Hey, Gene, Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Gene. How are you?
Oh, forget. My problem is I bought an Acer, and I was doing the Windows 7 updates on it, and it crashed my computer. I mean, literally just total black screen. Couldn't go into safe mode, anything.
Oh,
so
I
I
feel
went
for you.
to do a total reinstall. I bought a new Windows 7 program and everything. And as I was wiping my hard drive, the power went off at my house, and the battery didn't last long enough. And as a result, whenever I did get power back, I could no longer turn my laptop on.
Have you ever heard the word fiasco, Gene?
Yeah.
That's when things go from bad to very bad to complete collapse. That is a fiasco. You had, unfortunately, two bad things happen, kind of one right after the other. I think what you want to do at this point, let me take a step back. You didn't get any discs with this laptop?
No.
And you don't have a recovery partition or anything like that on the laptop?
No, I couldn't do anything with it.
So you had to buy Windows 7?
Yeah, it just went total black, and the only thing I could do at that point was turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah.
I bought the Windows 7 program.
First of all, that makes me mad, because did you just buy this laptop?
About 2 months ago.
Yeah, and could you go back to the manufacturer and say, dudes, your laptop's broken? Because it's not your fault. It's their fault.
I tried that, but they didn't want to seem to handle the deal. And
tell me the name of the company so we can shame them publicly over the national airwaves in front of 1 million people.
It was Acer.
So they didn't respond when you said, hey, your laptop died. It's 2 months old.
Yeah, the only thing I got was contact tech support, and I have been trying for 3 weeks to contact them, and I never got I can't get an answer back.
Well, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I submit no one listening to this show, all 1 million of you, should ever buy an Acer laptop ever again. So there you got a little satisfaction, Gene. It's their fault. Their computer died on you. Windows Update didn't break your computer. Your computer broke, and they should fix it. And at the very least, they should respond to you. Who did you buy it from?
Believe it or not, Wally World.
Have you talked to Wally World?
Yeah, I did, and they said it was out of the 30-day return guarantee.
Oh, you have a 30-day warranty. Holy cow. Well, I guess I won't be buying any computers at Wally World either. 30 days?
After 30 days, you're supposed to go to the manufacturer.
Oh, Lord. And the manufacturer is probably saying, it's Walmart's fault, and Walmart's saying, oh, it's Acer's fault. And you're, meanwhile, how much did you spend on that?
Almost $400.
Well, you're out $400. And then you went out and you bought, how much did you spend on the Windows 7? $150.
About 180.
Unbelievable. No wonder people get irate about technology.
I got both the 32-bit and 64-bit program when I bought it.
Yeah, it's automatic. So I would guess what's happened has nothing to do with you, although having the power go out during an install certainly didn't help. But it sounds like the hard drive died on you, and that's why it went black in the first place. You had a bad hard drive, and that's not unusual. Brand new computer. If hard drives are going to fail, they often fail in the first couple of months, and then they last a couple of years, and usually pretty reliably. This is, normal with technology, and that's why we want warranties longer than. Now, by the way, that's not a 30-day warranty. You have the full 1-year Acer warranty.
Oh, yeah.
That's a 30-day return from Walmart.
Right, it was a 30-day return.
Yeah, so, and that's not, to be honest, not unusual in the big box stores either. You can return it for 30 days, buyer's remorse or whatever. But if it's broken, they're not warrantying it. Acer's warrantying it. So we blame Acer here. This is Acer's fault, not Walmart's fault. Does Walmart not have any support, though? Will they not go to Acer and say, hey, dudes, this is, because it's bad, it's broken. It didn't break. See, Walmart saying, well, we didn't sell you a broken laptop. It broke later, but it broke so quickly that it's almost certain that the laptop that was sold to you was defective?
Well, I haven't talked to the Walmart at the house. I just talked to them, told them about it, and they said, well, it's out of the 30-day return.
Yeah, I don't want you to pour more money into this thing, but that's probably what you need is a new hard drive. And in my opinion, Acer needs to give it to you. And if you don't get satisfaction from Acer, you write to the president of Acer and you say, hey, I just talked about this in front of 1 million people. I think you really ought to do something, or I'm going to call Leo back. And I think you should probably go to the Wisconsin Better Business Bureau and the Wisconsin District Attorney and say, hey, I'm not getting good support here from the company, and this is under warranty, and they're not responding. They need to respond to you. They need to replace the hard drive. That's all that's wrong with it, I think. And it's really a shame that a company can get away with this. Now, my experience with Acer hardware is not bad hardware. They're good, and they're a good company. So it may just be you've fallen through the cracks. So try harder to get a hold of them. It's always good to write to the president. Every big company, and Acer included, now they're a Taiwanese company, but if you could find Acer America, Acer USA's president, write to him. And every company, every good company has an office of the president that handles this exact stuff. There's a number of people who will respond to you. So it's okay to go right to the top on this one. It's not Walmart, because Walmart really basically just gives them shelf space. That's why this is a 30-day return policy. And they're clear. Acer is responsible for supporting this laptop. I think the fact that the hard drive is now not working and you can't install Windows 7, pretty good indicator that it was a bad hard drive to begin with. And that's often what happens. Gene, I'm really sorry you had this problem. I'm glad you could call. And I really would encourage companies to do. I know customers, the problem is it's a $400 computer. Acer probably made $20 on it, $50. They didn't make much money on it. It's a $400 computer. There's very little profit. And so as a result, they cut wherever they can, and the first thing they cut is tech support. A simple call to tech support costs them $25. Doesn't take very long before you've eaten all their profit. So this is what we lobbied for in general. We wanted cheaper prices. We wanted cheap computers. We said we'll buy a lot of netbooks if you just charge a few $100 for them. So they made them, but they had to give up something. The first thing that went was tech support, and that's what you're seeing right here. That's why it's a $400 computer. And that's why, frankly, when Morgan called and said, should I get a MacBook Air, I said yes. And people were saying in the chat room, but it's twice as much. Yeah. But when the hard drive dies, Apple will fix it. Sorry about your troubles, Gene. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Have a great geek week. See ya.
You're tuned to Premier Channel 7. Leo Laporte, the tech guy, will begin at 6 minutes past the hour from Premier Radio Network. This is Premier Channel 7. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.